What's going on, guys? I'm here with Julian from Big Machine Records. So we're sitting here at the Pensado Gear Expo. What brings you here?
Well, what brings me here is the coolest place to be in town right now.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, I mean, great gear, great people. You know, people that all speak the same language we do. You know, music and recording and the love of it all.
Did you get a chance to come to the first one last year?
I did not. I just moved here.
Oh, nice.
From Los Angeles like a little more than 30 days ago. So I just got a job with Big Machine Records, and I'm really happy to be here.
So, being that you've been in Los Angeles, what's the difference between Los Angeles and Nashville musically?
Well, I have to tell you that I've done a handful of sessions since I've been here, and the musicians here are outstanding. Don't get me wrong, they're great in LA too, but there seems to be a community here of people that everyone's very supportive of one another. And certainly the people that I use and work with in Los Angeles were kind and respectful to one another, but here it seems much more like a family overall.
Yeah, and that's I actually lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years, and that's the same thing that I had. I just moved back here, and that's what drew me back here is just this even camaraderie, just the situations that you're in with people in general. I just feel are just a unique feeling.
I agree. So I'm happy to be here, and you know I love LA too.
Yeah,
I love New York. I love London. I mean, but this place is special.
Yeah,
for sure. It's not like anywhere else in the world.
And it's not. That's a completely accurate statement. So when we've been doing this all day today here at the Expo, what do you think of the whole event so far?
I think the same thing here when we were just talking about musicians a couple minutes ago, and the people here that are here, they're just seeking out and craving the best stuff, the coolest stuff, the most unique stuff to use, and they're hungry for new info, and yet they got one foot firmly entrenched in tradition here. Yeah. You know they like some of those old records and how they were recorded and what some of that gear was all about and just how it was done and where it was recorded and the consoles, the mics, the amps, the guitars, the drums, and it kind of everyone here is kind of into that whole cause, which is an amazing thing. So it's fun.
So when we're talking about music, what is being that 10 years ago it was completely different than what it is now. Mm-hmm. What are some of the changes that you've had to adapt to in the past to future to now? Well,
clearly, I mean, this is a cliche answer, but Pro Tools. Yeah. I mean, I think that the struggle that I have a little bit with that is just the ability to make things perfect when I like things flawed. Yeah. I mean, I like those magical performances, and some people are able to give you those, and some people need a little help. Right. So it's a gift to have that ability, but I can still hear the difference with tape, on drums and bass especially, I mean, we usually would record that way and dump it over. But overall, I mean, I think that, Pro Tools is look, it's a blessing. Yeah. It's a good thing, but it's still kind of like, you're just tempted to, before you got this feel and this thing and you just kind of went with it and it was cool and it was magical and it worked, but now you're like tempted to go, oh, I could just make it perfect and move it a little here and so I got to stop doing that.
But do you? I mean, is that something that you just kind of, if you had some free time, you had something just to do completely on your own, would you go back to doing that if you just could do whatever you wanted to do?
I think that for the most part, I got to tell you, it really has to do with the artist and the people you're working with. Some people it feels just complimentary to keep it real, and that's what you want to do. And some people, if they're going for something that's strictly way more pop, radio, competition, big, kind of that whole thing. Yep. I mean, you got to be competitive with what's on the radio, and a lot of that stuff is chopped up pretty severely, and it sounds just an inch short of perfect. So, I think it all has to do with the artist, and I think it's it's one day at a time. Absolutely. That's really it. So
for new artists, when they're just coming up into, they decide that, okay, well, now I have an album or I have music ready to make an album. Right. What would be some advice that you would give them in terms of finding a producer or finding a label or finding a management, whatever it is? What would you give advice to them for? Well, how would you do that?
I mean, I think the best thing in the world with any artist, any genre of music, is make sure your songs are the best they can be. Make sure your band is firing on all cylinders, and they'll all come to you. When you're good and you're the real deal, whether you're just a songwriter or just in a band or just a solo artist out there playing, people will find you. Yeah. If it's good and it's the real thing, I mean, you don't have to do anything but just be the best of who you are and what you're doing. And to me, that's the main thing. I mean, just got to write those great songs and try to be as unique as you can out there and be different than everybody else, and don't be afraid to be different. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the stuff that always seems to stand up and get noticed, is when you're not like everybody else, but you're really great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I always look for, and I think that's certainly what, you know, Big Machine has strived to do. I mean, there are a lot of very unique artists on that label that just aren't really doing what anybody else is doing. So I'm proud to be there, and I think there's a lot of people here trying to do that as well.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, do you think that being in Nashville, do you think it's hard to be an artist in any genre, or do you think it's actually better because it's Music City and there's so many things available?
Well, I think that's another crazy cliche about this town. Unless you're here and you spend any time here, the people think it's just strictly kind of country.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I go out to these clubs, and there's more rock bands and alternative bands and punk bands, and you know, than there is a lot of the country stuff that you think is here. You got to kind of go in search of that more than you do all that stuff. I mean, this is the land of, you know, the Kings of Leon and you know, and the Black Keys and Jack and everybody. You know, there's a lot of, and that all stems and branches out into all these other kinds of music, which is amazing. So I think it's just as much of a rock town as it is a country town to me.
Being that it's Music City, that there's a lot of different elements. I mean, it's something that you really have to experience in order to really grasp. It's not just what everybody thinks it is anymore. It's, you have to be here. You have to know what's going on. Is there any encouragement that you would tell other people, hey, come to Nashville? I mean, what would you say to people that have never been here before?
Well, it's funny because I don't remember what show it was. I was watching a documentary before I moved here, and I think it was Ben Fold was on there, and they asked him the same kind of question. He says, "You'll hate it here. Don't come to Nashville. Do not come to Nashville." You know, and it's just funny. I mean, it's kind of the best kept secret,
right,
but it's really not, because everyone's coming here. I've seen some amazing hip hop artists here, some electronic stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it's a melting pot of everything, and I think that I mean, certainly you have that southern feel where people seem to be really nice, but most of the people I met are not from the South.
Yeah.
And they're just as nice.
Yep.
So I don't know if that just brings out that camaraderie and that feeling in everybody, where everyone's just kind of nicer to one another and kind and really open-minded. And I mean, for me, the thing that I love about this is just everyone's just so open-minded musically. Yep. I mean, it doesn't, you know, you're into metal, you know, I mean, I love country music, I love pop music, I love the Beatles, I love, Patsy Cline, I love Ozzy. You know, it goes across the board for me. So, I mean, I like all kinds of music. So it's like, and it feels more like that here, like a melting pot than any other place I've ever been. London maybe is the closest, because they don't dip into the country thing quite as much, but they're so open-minded musically there.
Now, do you think that is, because in my opinion, I think that helps you if you have a diverse range of music. 100%. That's going to help you as a producer, as a record, whatever you're doing in the music industry. That's going to help you. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the whole is as much education as you can get, you know, from other styles of music, and you bring that to the table with the artists you're working with. I mean, that's what we talked about a couple minutes ago, about trying to strive to be unique. If you're working on something that is you know, a country artist, and you bring in a little bit of this cool thing that maybe the Beatles did, or maybe, you know, or something as unique as Emmylou Harris, and the more folk-oriented stuff into the country stuff, or into the, you know, there's so many ways to go. I mean, whether it's Paul Simon, I mean, there's so many influences to kind of draw from that work in so many different kinds of music.
So from our conversation, I feel like you and I both are kind of excited about where music is headed, and especially in Nashville, because like we've already stated, it's actually very diverse here.
100%.
Is there anything right now that you're working on that you're just ridiculously excited about?
Well, I'm honored and blessed to be involved with. I scored the movie. It's called "I'll Be Me," which is it's a motion picture about Glen Campbell.
Oh, nice! Yeah.
And so that was an honor for me to be involved with that. The director that did "Walk the Line" for Johnny Cash he followed Glen on his goodbye tour, and basically followed his life through his descent into Alzheimer's. Oh. So where it started out doing pretty well, and they had to pull him off at the end of the tour because it was getting to the point where he just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. And it's an incredible documentary, incredible story. And so I got to score that movie, and I got to record the last thing that Glenn ever did. And I was able to work with we put together the Wrecking Crew, which is really cool. Hal Blaine and all the guys, Joe Osborne. And so that was a real honor to be part of that. And that's coming out on Big Machine Records, the soundtrack is. Yeah. And the movie comes out October 9th. Shameless Plug. October 19th, sorry.
We're okay with that.
Good. So October 19th, I'll be me, Glen Campbell.
There it is.
So
right
it's
there.
great. Thanks.
Julian, I really appreciate you hanging out with us today. And enjoy the rest of the expo. If there's anything we can do for you, we love high fives. Just come by and give us a high five. We'll help you out with anything we need. All right?
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.